Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive with us. Today we're going to be talking about interface design.
Ooh, fun.
Yeah. But more specifically, how to make technology more intuitive
Yeah.
for just your average everyday user.
Mm-hmm.
So like websites,
Yeah.
mobile apps,
Mm.
even VR a little bit.
Okay.
We'll be looking at simple and usable web, mobile, and interaction design,
Right.
and also understanding virtual reality to kind of get at how to design these really smooth and effortless experiences for users.
I think that's a great topic because, so much technology that we encounter,
Yeah.
it's like it just doesn't get how people think.
I know. It's like, why am I fighting with this thing? It should
Right.
not be this hard to do this one simple thing.
Yeah. You just want to do the thing.
Right. So that's our goal today,
Okay.
is to figure out how to avoid that
All right.
and really think about the mainstream user,
Yeah. Designing for the mainstream user.
not the tech wizards
Exactly.
who are happy to dig into a settings menu.
Right. Or read the manual.
Right. Nobody reads the manual.
That's all they'll do.
Okay, true.
Like I do sometimes.
Okay, but mainstream users just want to do the thing.
Exactly. They want to do the thing quickly and move on with their day.
It has to be good enough.
Yeah, good enough quickly.
Yeah, but that's actually a pretty crucial insight, right?
It is because it can be kind of deceptive because it seems so obvious.
Yeah.
But you have to think about it this way. As of January 2010, Apple had sold 240 million iPods
Wow.
and 0 flying cars.
Okay.
So what does that tell us?
I don't know.
It tells us that Apple was designing something for the masses, not for a small group of early adopters or experts. The iPod was simple,
Yeah.
intuitive,
Uh-huh.
enjoyable to use.
You didn't need an engineering degree to use it.
Exactly. And by focusing on that simplicity and ease of use, they reached a way bigger market
I see.
than if they designed it for the techie people.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and you can think about this beyond just consumer electronics.
Mhm.
Even something like booking a flight online.
Yeah.
A lot of times those websites, they're designed with frequent flyers in mind.
Yeah, that's true.
And they have all these options and terminology that's super overwhelming.
For someone who doesn't travel all the time.
Exactly.
Totally.
So that's a prime example of how designing for a niche group can actually alienate people and frustrate a bigger part of your audience.
So how do you avoid that?
Well, one thing is to recognize the emotional needs of users.
Okay.
So it's not just about the functionality,
Yeah.
but how the experience makes people feel.
So it's if an app makes me feel more organized and in control,
Exactly.
that's good design.
Yeah.
Okay, so what kind of emotional needs are we even talking about here?
Well, when people use technology, they have these underlying emotional goals.
Okay.
It might be wanting to feel in control,
Mm-hmm.
a sense of accomplishment,
Yeah.
or even just wanting to relax.
Interesting.
But if an app is poorly designed, it can make you feel the opposite of all those things.
Frustrated and overwhelmed.
Exactly.
Okay, so how do you design something that taps into those positive emotions?
So one way to do that is to kind of think about simplicity as a form of control.
Okay.
Remember, we talked about the buttonless elevator before.
Yeah, it's kind of freaky.
Yeah. And that's because it removes control.
Right, even though it sounds simpler, it's I can't do the thing.
Exactly.
Don't even have the option.
And so it makes people feel less in control,
Okay, I see.
even though it's technically simpler.
Yeah, we like to push the button.
Right. And that feeling of agency is so important
Yeah.
for having positive feelings.
Okay.
So it's not about dumbing things down.
Right.
It's about giving users the right amount of control.
Okay, so how do you know how much is the right amount?
That's the tricky part.
Yeah.
It takes understanding your audience and their needs,
Mm-hmm.
but also their mental models.
Mental model.
So that's basically a person's internal representation of how something works.
So my very simplified idea of how a car engine works.
Exactly.
Okay.
And when we interact with technology, we use these mental models
Mm-hmm.
to guide our actions.
Okay.
So if the interface matches our mental model,
Yeah.
it feels intuitive and easy to use.
Okay.
But if it clashes,
Then it's bad.
then it's confusing.
I see.
So think about a website that uses weird terminology or a really strange layout
Uh-huh.
that violates your mental model of how websites usually work.
Yeah, and you're wait, what?
Exactly. And then people get frustrated and might even give up.
I've totally done that.
So designers really need to be aware of that mental model
Mm-hmm.
and design things that match people's expectations.
Right.
And that brings us to another key idea,
Okay.
focusing on what's core to the experience.
What's core?
So it means being really ruthless about prioritizing features
Okay.
and like letting go of anything that doesn't actually serve the user's needs.
Because every feature you add,
Yeah.
it adds more cost,
Technically,
right?
it's more cost.
Not just to build the thing,
Yeah. And resources.
but it's more stuff on the screen for the user.
Exactly.
Okay.
Like every button, every option, every little bit of information demands attention.
It's like decision fatigue.
Yes, exactly.
Like when you're looking at a menu that's like 3 pages long.
Right. And especially for mainstream users who are already busy.
Yeah.
Like they're just bombarded with information all the time. They don't need more decisions.
So how do you figure out what to cut?
Well, you have to really understand your users,
Okay.
their goals. What are they trying to do? What are their pain points?
Yeah.
What are they struggling with?
So it's about solving the biggest problems.
Right. Instead of trying to anticipate every possible thing.
I see.
And this can be hard
Yeah.
because designers often fall into what's called the sunk costs fallacy.
Oh, what's that?
So that's where you hold on to like a bad design simply because you've already spent time and money on it.
Oh, yeah, like throwing good money after bad.
Exactly. And in design, that might be like clinging to this complex feature
Right.
that nobody actually uses.
Okay.
A good example is the Telus set-top box.
Oh, yeah. What happened there?
So the designers, they tried to put in like all these features. They thought more was better,
Okay.
but then they started doing user testing.
Yeah.
And they realized the biggest frustration for users was actually really specific.
Okay.
They couldn't watch a third show
Okay.
while recording 2 others.
Oh, I see.
So it seemed minor,
Yeah.
but it was actually a huge pain point.
Oh, okay.
So they focused on that one problem and ended up with a much better user experience.
So sometimes simpler is better.
A lot of times simpler is better.
Okay. So we've talked about understanding the user.
Yeah.
Considering their emotional needs.
And focusing on the core experience.
Right. What else? What other key principles should designers keep in mind?
So another big one is reducing cognitive load.
Cognitive load.
Yeah, remember simplicity? It happens in the user's head,
Okay.
not just on the screen.
I see.
So you want the experience to feel effortless.
Okay.
Minimize the number of things they need to remember,
Yeah.
the number of tasks they need to juggle, the number of decisions they have to make.
So you basically want the interface to disappear.
Yeah, almost like it becomes invisible.
Okay.
So the user can focus on the thing they're trying to do.
Right.
A good example is the flip camera.
Oh, yeah, I remember those.
Yeah, so simple to use.
You just flipped it open and hit record.
Exactly. Anyone can figure it out.
Yeah.
And it let people focus on capturing the moment.
Okay.
Same with a simple DVD remote.
Yeah.
Just a few buttons.
So you can focus on the movie.
Exactly.
Okay, those are good examples.
So reducing that cognitive load,
Yeah.
that's essential.
Okay, so how do you actually do that? What are the techniques?
Well, one technique is to use something called perceptual layers. So you're organizing information visually, using things like color,
Yeah.
size, placement
Okay.
to guide the user's attention.
So like a visual hierarchy.
Exactly.
Like if I'm designing a website,
Yeah.
I make the headline big and bold,
Right.
then subheadings a little smaller,
Right.
and then the body text even smaller.
Exactly.
Okay.
You could also use color to differentiate categories of information.
Like blue for links,
Yeah.
green for buttons.
Yeah. Or to highlight important data points in a chart.
Okay.
Even something
Yeah.
as simple as white space
Yeah.
to reduce clutter
White space is good.
is very good.
Okay, what about color coding?
Color coding can be very effective,
Yeah.
but you have to be careful.
Why?
Well, not everyone perceives colors the same way.
Right.
Some people are colorblind.
So you need to have other ways to get the information.
Exactly, like clear labels
Yeah.
or text descriptions.
So the color is just like an extra layer.
Right. It shouldn't be the only way to get the information.
Makes sense.
Okay. And another good technique is to hide less important features.
Okay.
So it's kind of like decluttering.
Yeah.
You put away things you don't use every day,
Okay.
so it's more manageable.
So like on a website, you might have some settings hidden in a menu
Exactly.
so you don't overwhelm the user
Right.
with all these options.
The New York Times website does this.
Oh, really?
Yeah, during checkout.
Mm-hmm.
They hide the print this article link.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah, because you're checking
And I'm
out.
going to print the article.
Exactly.
What about search?
Oh, search. That's a good one.
Yeah.
So a lot of people think
Mhm.
that users always prefer search over browsing.
Right.
But actually, people generally prefer to browse
Okay.
if the interface is easy to use.
Yeah, because browsing, you can kind of discover things.
Exactly. You can explore.
And you don't have to think of what to search for.
Right. It's less mental effort.
You can just kind of look around.
Exactly.
Okay?
Search requires you to actually think of a search term,
Yeah.
type it in,
Yeah.
then you have to sift through a bunch of results.
It's more work,
It is more work.
so you don't always need search.
Not always.
Okay, and then the last thing we were talking about was errors.
Yeah, even small errors can add to cognitive load and
Uh-huh.
make things feel clunky and
Yeah.
frustrating.
So it's not just about avoiding system crashes.
Right.
It's about all the little bumps
Exactly. All the little things that make the experience less enjoyable.
and make you want to throw your phone at the wall.
Right. So there's the example in the book about an online bank statement.
Okay.
So they had this drop-down menu
Uh-huh.
where you could select the month and year of the statement.
Okay, sounds simple enough.
Yeah, but people kept making this error.
What was it?
They would accidentally select the wrong month.
Oh, yeah, I've totally done that.
It's like a minor thing,
Yeah.
but it's annoying.
It makes you feel dumb.
Yeah.
Okay.
So how do you fix that?
Yeah, how did they fix it?
They redesigned the menu.
Okay.
So it only showed the months that were available.
So you couldn't make the mistake.
Exactly.
Wow, that's really smart.
And it made the whole thing feel smoother,
Yeah.
more intuitive.
Okay, so those are some techniques. We've
Yeah.
covered a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Understanding the mainstream user,
Mm-hmm.
thinking about their emotional needs, focusing on that core experience, reducing cognitive load,
Yep.
practical stuff like perceptual layers, color coding, hiding those extra features. Is there anything else?
There's one more really important thing.
Okay.
It's understanding the user's mental model.
Right, we touched on that earlier.
Yeah. So how do you make sure your interface matches the user's mental model?
I'm curious.
Well, people have different mental models based on their past experiences, their assumptions, how they understand the world.
Okay.
And that affects how they use technology.
So like someone who grew up using a rotary phone, yeah, they have a totally different mental model than
Yeah.
someone who grew up with a smartphone.
Right. And if you design an interface that clashes with that,
Yeah.
it's just going to be confusing.
Okay.
So there's this example in the book about a smart travel planner.
Oh, yeah.
And it was supposed to be super helpful,
Okay.
suggesting itineraries,
Hmm.
activities
Right.
based on your preferences.
Okay.
But it turns out the way they organized information
Yeah.
didn't match how people actually think about planning a trip.
So even though it was trying to be helpful,
Yeah, it was like too smart.
it was confusing.
It was confusing.
Okay.
And that's why user testing is so important.
Okay. Yeah, because you have to see how people actually use it,
Exactly.
not just how you imagine they will.
Right, because sometimes it's very different.
You think it's going to be great.
You think it's going to be perfect.
And it's a disaster.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the goal is to design interfaces that work with the user's mental model.
Okay, so that's like the key takeaway. Yeah.
Work with, not against.
Exactly.
Okay. So we've talked about mental models. What else is there?
So another helpful way to think about it is to think about which tasks are better suited for computers
Okay.
versus humans.
Interesting.
So it's not just about making things simple for humans.
Yeah,
It's about using the strengths of both.
I see.
So computers are great at
Yeah.
storing and retrieving lots of data,
Mm-hmm.
sorting lists, doing calculations.
Okay. Definitely not my strong suit.
But humans are better
Yeah.
at setting goals, making subjective judgments,
Right.
recognizing patterns,
Yeah.
adapting to new situations.
That's all the human stuff.
Exactly.
Okay.
So if we design interfaces where computers can do the computer stuff,
Right.
humans can focus on the human stuff.
It's a partnership.
It is a partnership.
Okay.
So think about a travel website.
Yeah.
The computer can easily store and retrieve information about flights, hotels, attractions, all that stuff.
But it can't really understand
Yeah.
what kind of trip you want.
Or what I like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the computer can handle the logistics.
Okay.
The human can make the creative decisions.
That makes a lot of sense.
And a good interface makes that collaboration really smooth.
Wow, this is all so fascinating.
It is.
I'm seeing how these ideas can be applied to all kinds of interfaces, from
Yeah.
websites, apps,
Mhm.
to like travel planners,
Yeah.
even VR.
And speaking of VR,
Yeah.
that's a great segue.
To the next part of our deep dive.
Exactly.
I'm so excited to get into that.
All right, let's talk VR.
Okay, let's do it.
Get ready for a wild ride.
I'm ready.
Okay, so we were talking about how important it is for designers to get that user's mental model right.
Mm-hmm.
And that becomes like even more crucial when you start thinking about VR.
Yeah.
Because now you're not just designing like screens anymore.
Right. It's like a whole world,
Yeah, you're creating an entire world.
whole environment.
Yeah, and that adds a whole new layer of complexity.
Yeah, I bet.
So think about it in traditional interfaces.
Yeah.
you're pretty limited in how you can present things.
Yeah. It's pretty much a flat screen.
Yeah, it's like a flat screen, a mouse,
Right.
or touch input.
Yeah.
But in VR, you have 3 dimensions to work with.
Oh, wow.
So suddenly where you put a button or how you display data,
Mhm.
it's not just about fitting it on the screen.
Right.
It's about where it exists in the space.
In the virtual world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And understanding virtual reality really gets into this.
Okay.
Like take virtual controls, for example.
Okay.
You're not limited to just putting them on a 2D plane anymore.
Right. So you could have a virtual control panel
Exactly.
that the user can like walk up to
Yeah.
and interact with.
Yeah, almost like in the real world.
Okay. So that would be really immersive.
Yeah, that's the in-world approach.
Okay.
And it can be super effective for things that mimic real-world actions.
Like what?
So imagine like a VR flight simulator.
Okay.
Instead of having a menu pop up,
Right.
you could actually reach out
Yeah.
and touch the controls in the cockpit.
That would be so cool.
But there are downsides to think about.
Oh, yeah. What are those?
Well, one is discoverability.
Okay.
Like if a control's hidden in some corner,
Mm-hmm.
the user might never find it.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's always a balance
Yeah, 'cause,
between realism and usability.
Right.
You want it to feel real,
Yeah.
but also be easy to use.
Okay, so that's in world.
Yeah. What about in-hand controls?
Is hand.
Hand.
Okay.
So that's where the controls are attached to the user's hands.
Okay, so maybe they make a gesture.
Right.
Open a menu.
Yeah. Or use their fingers to like move objects around.
That sounds cool.
Yeah. That can feel really intuitive.
Yeah.
Especially for things that involve like direct manipulation.
But there's got to be challenges with that too.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
What are they?
Well, tracking hand movements accurately,
Yeah.
especially if the user's moving around a lot,
Yeah.
it can be tricky.
The technology has to be really good.
Yeah. And you have to design the controls
Mm.
so they feel natural and comfortable.
Yeah, I can see that.
So it seems like there's no one right answer.
Right. It depends.
It depends on the experience, what the user's doing.
Okay, but the core principles are still the same.
Exactly. Reduce cognitive load,
Right.
match the user's mental model.
Make it feel good.
Yeah, make it intuitive and enjoyable.
Okay, so we've talked about controls.
Yeah.
What about wayfinding?
Oh, wayfinding. That's huge in VR.
No.
Think about how easy it is to get lost
Yeah.
in a city you don't know.
Uh-huh.
Now imagine that in a virtual world
Yeah.
where the rules of physics might be different.
Right. And there's no, like, street signs.
So you need to give people really clear cues
Yeah.
to help them orient themselves.
Okay, so landmarks would be important.
Yeah, landmarks are key.
Like how?
So in the real world, we use landmarks,
Mhm.
like tall buildings
Right.
or monuments,
Yeah.
to find our way.
Okay.
You can do the same thing in VR.
So if I was designing a VR game that was in a forest,
Okay.
I could put in, like, a really tall tree.
Yeah,
That's a weird shape.
exactly.
So you can only see it.
Right. And that can help you figure out where you are.
Okay.
And you can even go beyond just visuals.
Oh, really?
Yeah, audio cues can be super effective too.
Like sound?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you could use the sound of running water
Okay.
to indicate a stream,
Yeah,
or birds chirping to indicate a forest.
I see.
Sound can really create a sense of place.
Yeah, that's true.
And understanding virtual reality also talks about maps.
Oh, yeah, map.
But traditional 2D maps,
Yeah.
they don't always work well in a 3D world.
Yeah, because you're holding a flat map.
Right.
And you're in a 3D world.
Exactly.
Okay.
So VR designers are experimenting with 3D maps.
Oh, cool.
They're like integrated into the environment.
So you could have like a virtual globe
Yeah.
that you could spin around.
Yeah, and zoom in on.
Yeah.
And it updates in real time as you move.
Oh, wow. It's like a VR GPS.
It is like a VR GPS.
That's amazing.
Yeah, especially for large and complex environments.
Okay, so we've talked about controls, wayfinding.
Yeah.
What about presence?
Oh, presence. That's like the holy grail of VR.
What's presence?
It's that feeling of actually being there
Okay.
in the virtual world.
I see.
Like you've actually stepped into another reality.
That's cool.
And a strong sense of presence
Yeah.
depends on a lot of things.
Okay, like what?
Well, quality of the visuals,
Okay.
the realism of the sound,
Mm-hmm.
how responsive the interface is,
So if the graphics are bad or the
Yeah.
audio's choppy,
or the controls are laggy.
yeah, it's not going to feel real.
It breaks the illusion.
But there's another factor that understanding virtual reality talks about.
Yeah.
What is it?
Point of view.
Okay.
So whether the user experiences the virtual world
Yeah.
from a first person,
Uh-huh.
second person, or third person perspective.
Okay.
So in traditional media,
Yeah.
we're usually stuck with one point of view.
Right.
But in VR, you
Yeah.
can play with that.
Oh, interesting.
So first person,
Yeah.
you're seeing the world through your avatar's eyes.
Okay, that's like most VR games.
Yeah, it's super immersive.
Yeah.
But you can also miss things.
Because you can only see what's in front of you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What about second person?
Okay.
So that's where you're seeing things from a point near your avatar,
Okay.
but not directly through their eyes.
So it's like I'm standing next to my avatar.
Exactly.
Them.
And then there's third person,
Okay.
which is more like watching a movie.
Oh, I see.
You're observing from a detached viewpoint.
Okay.
So each perspective gives you a different experience.
And you can choose which one's best.
Right. Depending on what you're trying to do.
What story you're trying to tell.
Exactly.
Wow. So VR designers, they
Yeah.
have a lot of tools
They have a whole new toolkit.
to create really amazing experiences.
Yeah. But it all comes back to understanding how people work.
Right, because we're designing for humans,
Exactly.
not machines.
Yeah. Not machines.
Okay.
And as VR technology gets better,
Yeah.
we're going to see even more innovation in interface design.
I bet understanding virtual reality talks about this.
It does. It talks about all sorts of cool possibilities.
Like what?
Well, one is better display technology.
Okay.
So imagine headsets
Yeah.
with resolutions so high
Huh.
that the virtual world looks like the real world,
Wow.
and wider fields of view.
So you don't feel like you're looking through a tunnel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And of course, lighter,
Yeah.
more comfortable headsets.
Because nobody wants to wear like a heavy thing on their head.
Yeah, for hours.
Yeah.
What about audio?
Oh, yeah. Will the sound get better?
Yeah, we can expect even more realistic and immersive sound,
Okay.
thanks to things like spatial audio.
Spatial audio.
Yeah. So you can pinpoint the location of sounds
Oh, wow.
with incredible accuracy.
That would be so cool.
It would.
It's like a built-in surround sound system
It is.
in your VR headset.
Exactly.
Okay, so better visuals, better audio.
Yeah. And what about tracking technology?
Tracking. Okay.
So that's how your movements in the real world
Yeah.
get translated to the virtual world.
Okay.
So we can expect that to get more accurate
Yeah.
with lower latency.
So no lag.
No lag.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, it'll feel like you're really there.
What about the input devices?
Oh, yeah, like the controllers.
Yeah.
So are we going to be stuck with handheld controllers forever?
Right.
Or are there going to be more natural ways to interact?
I'm curious.
The book talks about all sorts of cool new input devices.
Like what?
So imagine gloves that can track your finger movements.
Oh, wow.
So you could manipulate objects with like incredible precision,
That would be amazing.
or even brain-computer interfaces.
What?
Yeah,
So you could control the virtual world with your thoughts.
exactly.
That sounds like science fiction.
It does, but the technology's getting there.
Wow.
And as that stuff develops,
Yeah.
it's going to open up all sorts of possibilities
So VR design?
for VR design.
That's cool.
What about content creation?
Oh, yeah.
Like, will it be easier for people to make their own VR experiences?
I hope so.
Understanding virtual reality says yes.
Really?
Yeah, they think we're going to see a lot of user-friendly tools
Okay.
that will let anyone create VR content.
Wow. So it won't just be like big game studios.
Right.
It could be anybody.
Yeah, anyone with an idea
Okay.
and a little bit of technical skill.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and that's going to lead to a ton of innovation.
I bet.
Yeah, all sorts of creative new experiences.
It's like a VR revolution.
It really is.
And it's just going to get bigger.
Right, and it's also going to get integrated with other technologies.
Like what?
So things like artificial intelligence
Okay.
and the Internet of Things.
So we might have personalized VR experiences
So-
that are tailored to my preferences.
Yeah, or VR experiences that can interact with the real world.
Oh, wow.
So imagine a VR shopping experience
Sure.
where the store is personalized to you
Yeah.
and you can actually feel the texture of the clothes.
Before you buy them.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
Or a VR home security system
Okay.
that gives you a 360-degree view of your property
Oh, wow.
and alerts you to anything suspicious.
The possibilities are endless.
They are. It's pretty mind-blowing.
It is. It's exciting.
Yeah, but also a little bit daunting.
Yeah, because it's like, how do we design for all of this?
Right. But that's why it's so important
Yeah.
to remember these core principles.
Yeah.
Simplicity,
Uh-huh.
usability.
Human-centered design.
Exactly.
Right.
We can't lose sight of the human element.
Right, as we get all this cool new technology.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the future of VR,
We have.
but I want to come back to something from simple and usable web, mobile, and interaction design.
Okay.
They made this interesting point about simplicity.
Well, what was it?
So they said that simplicity isn't just about removing things,
Yep.
it's also about adding the right things.
Oh, that's a good point. It's
Yeah.
like finding that balance
Right.
between minimalism and guidance.
So you don't want to strip away too much
Exactly.
because then it becomes unusable.
Yeah, it's like the difference between a stark, empty room
Right.
and a cozy, well-decorated room.
Okay.
Both can be simple,
Yeah.
but one is much more inviting.
Yeah.
So in interface, design those right things to
Yeah.
add.
Yeah.
They're often like cues and clues
Okay.
that help people understand how to use the interface.
So instead of just having a button
Yeah,
with a vague label.
you might have a tooltip that pops up
Oh, okay.
and explains what it does.
I see.
Or a little animation
Yeah.
that shows what happens when you click it.
Okay.
So you're giving just enough information
Right.
without overwhelming them.
It's like a little hint.
Yeah, a little nudge in the right direction.
So it's not just about taking away, it's about adding back in.
Yeah, but adding thoughtfully.
Okay, so those little details matter.
They really do.
They can make the experience better.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of theory. Do you want to look at some real-world examples?
Yeah, let's see how this stuff actually works in practice.
Okay, let's do it. Okay, so where do we see all this in action? Like real-world examples.
Yeah, the books we've been looking at,
Mm-hmm.
they have some great case studies
Oh, perfect.
that really bring these ideas to life.
Okay.
So one that I thought was really cool
Yeah.
was the NICE project.
Nice. Okay.
It's in Understanding Virtual Reality,
Okay.
and it stands for Narrative Immersive Constructivist Environments.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is it?
It's a VR experience designed for kids,
Okay.
and it shows how VR can be used in education.
Why? So they're learning.
Yeah, they're learning by doing
That's,
exploring a virtual world.
Okay.
But the really important part
Yeah.
was the interface design.
Yeah, because kids, they don't have a lot of patience
You do not.
for like
Yeah.
clunky
Yeah,
interfacing.
well, just give up.
Right.
So the designers, they had to make it super intuitive,
Okay.
really easy to use.
So what did they do?
Well, they thought about every little detail,
Okay.
like even the shape and size of the VR controller.
Okay.
It was designed for small hands.
Well, that's smart.
And the visual feedback was really clear and engaging,
Yeah.
and the interactions were super simple.
Okay.
I love they even put instructions
Yeah.
right into the virtual world.
So you don't have to stop and read a manual.
Exactly. You just pick up the controller
Yeah.
and start playing.
Okay. So they really thought about the user.
Yeah, they designed for their specific audience.
Okay. That's awesome.
There's another cool example in Understanding Virtual Reality.
Okay.
It's called the Crumbs application,
Crumbs.
and it's this scientific visualization tool.
Oh, wow.
So scientists can use it to explore complex data sets.
So VR for data.
VR for data.
Interesting.
Yeah, because staring at spreadsheets all day
Yeah.
can be pretty boring,
Even for scientists.
even for scientists.
Yes. Okay, so what do they do?
Well, they used all sorts of techniques
Yeah.
to represent the data visually.
So things like color mapping, transparency,
Okay.
animation.
To make it more interesting.
Exactly, to highlight the important stuff.
Okay.
And they also included interactive tools.
So the scientists could, like, play with the data.
Yeah, they could manipulate it,
Okay.
see it from different angles.
Oh, cool.
They even added a sonification feature,
Sonific was that?
so you could actually hear the data.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's like VR engaging multiple senses
That's
to
amazing.
make the data more understandable.
You're not just seeing it.
You're seeing it.
You're hearing it.
Yeah, you're interacting with it.
Okay, so that's a great example
It is.
of how interactivity
Yeah.
can really help people understand things.
Right, when you can actually play with something,
Yeah.
it makes more sense.
Okay. Last one.
All right, last one.
What is it?
This one's called the Boeing Wire Bundle Assembly Application.
That sounds very industrial.
It is very industrial.
Okay.
So this is an example of augmented reality.
Augmented reality. Yeah, so that's where you overlay digital information
Uh-huh.
onto the real world.
Okay, I've seen that on my phone.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And Boeing is using this
Mhm.
to help workers assemble these really complicated wire harnesses.
Mm-hmm.
So the workers, they get step-by-step instructions
Mm-hmm.
and visual guidance.
Right, in their field of view.
Exactly.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's like having a virtual assistant
Yeah.
guiding you through the process.
Okay, but that must be really hard to design
Oh, yeah. The interface has
Mhm.
to be super clear,
Nice.
easy to use.
because they're working.
Yeah, it's a busy environment,
Right.
potentially dangerous.
You can't have something that's going to distract them.
Exactly, or get in the way.
Wow, so that's a great example
Yeah.
of how context matters.
Yeah,
Like the physical environment,
the task.
the
I mean,
user.
It all affects the design.
Okay. And it also highlights the importance of user testing
Yes.
and iterative design.
You have to get it out there,
Yeah.
see how people use it.
And then make changes
And make changes until it's right.
because what you think is going to work.
Doesn't always work.
Yeah, you have to see it in action.
Exactly.
Wow, this has been so eye-opening.
It has been fun.
I feel like I've learned so much
Me too.
about what it takes to design good interfaces.
Yeah, and remember, this field is always changing.
Right.
You got to stay curious.
Keep learning.
Yeah, keep experimenting.
So I guess our homework
Yeah?
is to pay attention to all the interfaces we use every day,
Exactly.
from our phones
To our card.
to like the self-checkout at the grocery store.
Yeah, and think about how they make you feel.
Right. Do they feel good?
Are they easy to use?
Or are they frustrating?
Yeah.
And how could you make them better?
Exactly.
Because even the smallest things
Can make a big difference.
in how we experience the world,
Exactly, and that's what good design is all about.
making things better.
Yeah, more human.
Okay, on that note,
Yes.
thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
We'll see you next time for another deep dive.